lawyers, sometimes things aren't as easy as you'd like them to be, and Stan, and rightfully so, I think he should keep all the rights to his character, and I think that right now the lawyers are negotiating pretty heavy to try to own more of Usagi and Stan. I wouldn't want Stan to do that kind of deal anyway. So, but I hope that it all works out, and I hope we get to see Usagi not in the new animations, not only in the new animated series, but in the comic books as well. So, love Usagi.
And how does it feel to be the father of a pop culture icon?
We're four. Incredibly humbling. All too often feeling unworthy, feeling incredibly honored. Can't believe that like last year was Turtles' 30th anniversary, and my wife and I did I think 25 shows, and it was one of those things that I can't believe 30 years later that we're still talking about Turtles, and there's still people are still discovering them. In the early days, the early comic shows were fans of the comics, and then as it became an animated series, there'd be a lot more kids coming and stuff like that. There's usually somebody asks, what's the difference between signings back in the old days and signings now? Back in the old days, it was like there'd be an excited young person and this parent behind him that was incredibly pissed off. He'd be like, how much money I spent on turtle toys, how many Christmas Eve I stayed up trying to put together that stupid turtle blimp or the sewer playset, stepped on turtle toys on the way to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And now, these days, it's that young person has children of their own, and the kids have kind of discovered the Turtles, and now they're both excited to see me. So, but no, it's pretty amazing. It's like I said, it's quite humbling. I feel that I'm incredibly blessed because I literally have the best job on the planet. I get to get up and draw turtles in my sweatpants, and come up with new stories and draw for a living. It's pretty fantastic.
That was going to be my question. I grew up with the Turtles as a kid and got in, and then set all my stuff aside, and now my daughters are experiencing Turtles for the first time, and big fans. So I pulled all my toys and my figures and games and everything, and now they're starting to see that, and they're watching the Nickelodeon cartoon. So, I mean, what do you think? What do you attribute to staying so popular as the Ninja Turtles from like when I was a little to now kids now and enjoying the Nickelodeon cartoon?
Man, so, it's one of those, you can look at that, and, even when, people in the early days of the success of the Turtles, and people go, well, what the hell is it? What is it that, people find about the Turtles that's interesting? And when we look at it, we go, well, we created them, basically by accident. It was sort of, like I said, we sort of took all of our favorite elements of comics and rolled them into one idea, and there's a lot of familiarity. I mean, like you look at groups like the X-Men or Avengers or Fantastic Four, there's always that, adopted family sort of thing that, these characters are all thrown together, they're all mutants, they're all a family, they all look out for each other and love each other. With Splinter as sort of the father figure, and I think, again, this is me just trying to understand it myself over the years. It's like, they're green, they're not black, white, Asian, they're no race or religion or whatever specific. So I think they're accessible to everybody, and I think because they're kind of outcasts. I mean, I grew up in a small town up in Maine, and I felt like Commandy, the last boy on Earth. I felt I was like a complete mutant, and I like comic books, and I was a complete geek, and all my friends are they're doing sports and all that stuff. So I felt completely outcast, but just wanted to be a teenager. And I think when you sort of roll in all those things into one, there's something that they can relate to, identify, and a lot of times when fans come up to, I always ask, I said, who's your favorite turtle and why? And they're always very specific. Oh, I like Michelangelo because of this. I like Donatello because I'm, my neighborhood, I'm the geeky tech guy, and blah, blah, blah. So I think there's something relatable. It doesn't alienate anybody. Again, they want to be teenagers first, but then, when things, chips are down or things, life gets in the way, like all of us, we all want to stand up and be the hero or do the right thing or save that person from getting hit by a bus or jumping in, saving someone, pulling someone out of the river, be the Indiana Jones, be the hero. We always feel we have that inside us, and most of us do. So I guess there's a relatability and you know, they're funny looking at them. But no, it's something that I wonder a lot too, and that's you know, someday they'll you know, cut apart my brain and do this whole research thing and find out that part, that why the turtles are popular.
Keep it alive in a jar.
We got plenty of time, so we can go back around. You want to start here again?
Sure. I had a question about something that I read online
Mm-hmm.
and never verified independently.
Mhm.
So you may not know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But the unreleased fifth turtle, Kirby,
Mm-hmm.
is that a thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
No, it's actually, so I know everybody in this room loves Venus de Milo, the fifth turtle. I do. No, when you were working on the fourth movie with New Line Cinema, that was the angle, was we were going to come up with a fifth turtle, and we named it Kirby after, because both Pete and I are huge fans of Jack Kirby. And so this finished multiple versions of a screenplay that had Kirby in it, and you know, we had this great thing where Shredder was put back together by these nanobot robots, these little microscopic robots, and it was just really fantastic story. And then when New Line decided not to go ahead with the film, it was around the same time we started developing the live-action series with Fox Kids, Saban, and Fox Kids. And Kirby was, we just moved that idea into the TV series. And so the fifth turtle, through all the early stages of development, was going to be a guy turtle. And Margaret Lesh, who was the head of Fox Kids, basically, I kid you not, it was like in the 11th hour, we were just getting ready to actually practically start production before shooting, and she said, I don't want another boy turtle, I want a girl turtle. And Pete and I were like, it was hard enough to make sure that the boy turtle angle worked. And she said, well, just adapt the same basic rules and turn it into a girl turtle. And it came down to the point where we argued about it enough, and then she said, well, there's either going to be a girl turtle or there's going to be no TV show. Wow. So Pete at that time respectfully said, then you know, I don't want a girl turtle, and he bowed out. And I said, well, you know, if we can make it work as a fifth turtle as a male, why can't we do as a girl turtle? I think it relates to, we had a lot of female fans, and I said, let's just make it work the best we can, and I think it could work under the same premise. And so I basically ran that show, and there was some parts of it that were good, some parts of it that weren't so good. But you know, people say that about. I remember like when Nickelodeon started on the computer-generated animated series, I got so many fans writing notes going like, "Oh my God, you're destroying my childhood. You know, why are you doing computer-generated? Why don't you do just like the original cartoon show in the late '80s, early '90s?" And then when you start seeing it, and see them sort of interact and move around, they look great. And they said, "Oh, that's actually pretty good." And the movie was obviously that. The new movie was a big issue for a long time because fans were like, "Holy smokes, what the hell are you doing?" But again, Jonathan Liebsman, who was the director, everybody calls it a Michael Bay film, but Jonathan Liebsman was the director, and that's who I worked directly with. And Jonathan was, his mission he called me in day one that he took over the gig, and he said, "I want to make the best turtle movie ever." And that was his intent all the way through. Sometimes the studio can make that a bit challenging. Yeah, so that's, and this, I think that, David Green and what we're doing on the second movie is going to be, David is more of a turtle fan, grew up as a turtle fan, so I think he's going to bring a lot of great qualities to, was it 5 more?
Oh.
Okay, oh, sorry, I thought we had more time. But, sorry, I'll talk really fast, like I don't talk fast enough.
Well, I'll ask a simple question then.
Sure.
I heard that whenever you and Peter Laird were coming up with the concept of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that y'all pretty much got together, was drinking, and it happened. My question is, what beer were y'all drinking?
Well, what's awesome is that we couldn't even afford beer then. Seriously. No, it was, the short version is, Pete and I, the name Mirage Studios, which is the owner of the Turtles company that Pete and I formed to own the Turtles, was called Mirage Studios because it was a mirage. It was our living room. We didn't even, it was Pete and his wife had a house, and I rented a room out of it. And Pete used to watch, in my opinion, like some of the worst TV. Like T.J. Hooker was his favorite show, and they weren't that bad, but he'd watch these shows and he'd be like the A-Team, T.J. Hooker, and all this stuff. So I felt it was my job to annoy him as much as possible while he was watching his favorite shows. And so that was where one night, because I was a huge fan of Bruce Lee, I said to myself, if Bruce Lee was an animal, what would be the silliest dumbest animal that could be, and a turtle came out. So I did that sketch of Michelangelo with the nunchucks, like Bruce Lee, and that walks and the mask on, and I said, put it on his desk, and I said, the next big thing. And he, of course, laughed, and he did a sketch and changed some things, and of course, studio one-upmanship, I had to change his drawing, so I did a sketch of 4, and I put this comic book, Ninja Turtles logo, and I did it in pencil, and we inked it in a Teenage Mutant, the next day we got up and, we just said, this is really the dumbest thing ever, and we didn't have any distracting painting work going on, so we said, well, why don't we come up with a story to tell us how they came to be the Ninja Turtles, and that's where we started. In 1983 was the first drawings, and May of 1984 is when the first issue came out. So.
And then just made them into figurines, that initial drawing you mentioned, so congratulations.
Oh, thanks. No, that was
Those are
excited
amazing,
that they wanted to do that. Mondo, yeah, it was really fun. That was quite an honor. So that's cool. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna go back to the new series. I kind of like the direction it's going. It gets a little weird, sort of like some of the original stuff he did.
There's some weird shit in there.
Yeah, it gets weird, and I like that.
Yeah,
and I like.
me too.
The whole April being mutant thing was
Yep.
that. How did that?
Well, what's great about like what Ciro, who I can't compliment enough, Ciro Neely and the whole creative team, Brandon Graham and the guys that write that stuff, they really look back, much like when we were working on the Turtles IDW series, that they look back at all the different universes of the Turtles, whether it be the original black and white series, or the 2000 series that Pete did, to the movies, and they push or pull weird bits and weird characters and sort of tweak them and alter them a little bit for the show. And then there's new ideas that come out of that, new mutants that we want to bring in, new angles, like just, when Ciro told me the idea that he wanted to make April a 16-year-old, which is so different than April the scientist from the original black and white series, or April the reporter in the cartoon series, and even what we did with the IDW series. I mean, Turtles reincarnated, April names them in the lab, not Splinter. So every time we change a little bit, we still try to keep the same heart and soul. So, when we hit on an idea like that, I love that angle. It brings a new dimension to her character. And I love that, she's always got that number 5 on her shirt, which the 5th Turtle, you probably more than get that. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I can't tell you where it's going, but you're going to love it. So
It's a lot of fun. It's fun to see the little, every once in a while you go, hey, and you see the throwback, and
Yep.
and it's a lot of fun to watch the show.
Yeah, like Renette's coming back in the next series, the time traveling.
That's one of my favorite lines.
Yeah.
Storylines. So that's really
So taking them up into the woods, up into Northampton, and the farm. So there's always, and Ciro is so great about that, and also he just has these crazy ideas, and I love, those zombies that, the pizza zombies, or Mutagen Man, or the 5th Turtle character, the big. He's fantastic.
I like the farm where they went off to their Zen thing.
Yep.
They all elements that they losing my talkie.
Yeah.
Where they go off in their
Yep.
own element and they made their own little outfits. That was a great.
Good. I think but that me too. That was because it was true to like the last issues that Peter and I did. Yes, sir. We'll get one more question from each down the line. Are we good, Rose?
Sure.
Okay. As long as we want to, because we get another interview.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have another round.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So one more each.
Sure. I was going to ask you, how much input do you have on the cartoon?
Not that much. Only in that directly it's like Ciro calls me Obi-Wan, and I get to go by the studio every time I'm in LA, and they talk about different ideas they're doing, different directions, and we talk about what they're doing, and it's sort of a mind meld spitball sort of session. But the next season they're doing, I'm going to be more involved in it directly, which is exciting. But I just love what they do anyway. So it's like they say, we're doing this and we're going here and this is fun, and I'm like that, and they said, well, how about that? Or how about that? So it's more fun, between friends and stuff. So guys.
So I believe it's issue number 44. It just came out not all that long ago.
Yep.
You kind of dropped a bomb on us.
Yep.
I'm really curious. Well, I understand if you can't answer, but what would be the next bomb that's coming?
The world ends, and they're floating on a piece of Earth through space, and no pizza. No.
Oh no.
It's going to be held up by elephants.
No, that's the fun part about when we did the City Fall, the Dark Leo thing, where it's trying to convinces him that his son and all that. Even with that didn't have much of the people liked that whole City Fall arc, but that was not as big a thing. But with the Donatello thing, we had a very specific plan. And when I sit with Tom Walsh is the genius of that entire series.